I have been a hobbyist Bigfooter my entire life. I started studying and reading magazine articles when they first came out back in 1951. That's when they published photographs from Mount Everest and called it the Abominable Snowman. I built a museum because the company I worked for went from 40 down to 4. I was laid off, and first of all, I had to recreate myself. I had this property still here. I had a collection of stuff that would attract people interested in Bigfoot, and I was sure it would attract people who had also seen them. So I said, well, it's time for me to do this. It's my full-time job, is to attempt to prove that there is a Bigfoot.
Never did I think Bigfoot lived here. I was always doing all my research up into the Sierras. I joined forces with Mike about 8 years ago. I go out into the field when people come into the museum with a Bigfoot sighting. So far we've had 150 people come through that door with sightings and so forth of Bigfoot.
Te cuento que las historias de este ser gigante vienen de tiempos remotos. En casi todo el mundo, testigos aseguran haberlo visto. El video grabado por esta niña ocurrió en camino al aeropuerto de Provo, una zona donde se han registrado varios avistamientos, incrementando así esta leyenda viviente. Apenas caía la tarde cuando en medio de esta grabación apareció un ser extraño caminando entre el desolado paisaje.
What was that?
¿Qué es eso?, se pregunta la niña mientras grababa. Ahora, ponga atención a esta repetición en cámara lenta. Se observa un supuesto animal o humanoide de aspecto simiesco, el cual podría tratarse del legendariamente conocido como Pie Grande o Bigfoot.
Si no lo crees, lo entiendo, pero cuando te lo topas, no te quedará duda de su existencia.
Este otro video, grabado también en Provo hace casi 4 años, muestra la única grabación donde uno de estos seres interactúa con un humano al lanzarle lo que parece una piedra.
Es peligroso. Si lo enfrentas, Pie Grande te va a atacar.
En Tunica, Mississippi, se grabaron estas imágenes de un ser extraño y con una fuerza inusitada arrancó parte de un árbol. El encuentro de lo que aparentemente podría ser Pie Grande o Bigfoot ocurrió en octubre del 2003 y quien tomó estas imágenes asegura que la bestia tenía más de 7 pies de altura.
Pie Grande se ve muy alto, su cabello está desordenado, tiene hombros prolongados, cuerpo musculoso, nariz ancha y su rostro tiene rasgos humanos.
En esta otra fotografía se aprecia lo que parece ser un Bigfoot o Pie Grande. Ponga atención al círculo. La persona que lo grabó asegura que vio a una criatura gigante.
I'm Keith Hoffman, executive producer of Finding Bigfoot. And I have to admit, when I started this series, I was a bit of a skeptic. Does Bigfoot exist? Yeah, right. But after several seasons of the series, I have to say, I've started to reconsider. I am going to show you some of the strongest evidence we've come across since we started the series. This footage is very famous in the Bigfoot world. It allegedly shows a baby Bigfoot swinging from a tree. What amazed me when I first saw this footage, that it is only 100 miles from New York City where I live. If you look in close, there's actually a large figure walking. And then this creature jumps off the larger one and starts playing in the tree. Some of the team believes that this is a baby Bigfoot jumping off its mother's back. So, could that thing swinging in the tree be somebody's pet? I guess so, but if somebody had a pet gibbon, do you let it just jump up in the trees and play all day? There's lots of woods around New York City. There's lots of Bigfoot sightings. I'm saying this could be a baby. This video is from a dash cam in a police car. They're driving down the road, just having a normal conversation. When you see on the right side here, some creature comes out and runs across the road. If Bigfoots are so stealthy, why would it run in front of a car? Why not wait till it passes and then run out? Are they like deer and get scared by headlights? I'm on the fence on this one. I mean, I guess it could be a hoax, but then was the cop in on it? Or the guy just happened to run in front of a car with a camera? This video clip is from our first season. You can see this creature crawling on its belly and then reaching out to grab what we find out is a candy bar. Apparently, Bigfoots love candy bars. 3 of our Bigfoot experts believe it's a Bigfoot. I'm not convinced this is a Bigfoot. I mean, it's too blurry, but I respect this team. And Matt and Cliff and Bobo are pretty convinced it's a Bigfoot.
Con el video que verán a continuación tratan de probar que esa criatura no es solo real, sino que está viva y caminando muy campante por los bosques en Texas y Luisiana. Un grupo de investigadores de Dallas, Texas, asegura que están a punto de concluir sus estudios de ADN y presentaron varios clips de un video de alta definición captados en cámara infrarroja, donde presuntamente prueban que la misteriosa criatura es real. En el primer clip que mostraron a la prensa, se divisa lo que se supone sea un pie grande joven caminando en medio de un bosque. Otro clip muestra lo que supuestamente es una pie grande, a la que han llamado Matilde. Esa hembra aseguran que es de edad avanzada y tiene una altura de unos 6 pies. Un tercer video grabado de día es lo que podría ser Matilde durmiendo bajo los árboles. El grupo asegura que esta grabación de los cuerpos humanoides y peludos fueron hechas en zonas boscosas de Kentucky en 2005. Como saben, la existencia o no de esta criatura ha generado mucha controversia, incluyendo los expertos que han descartado los presuntos avistamientos. Todos hemos tenido experiencias que han cambiado nuestras vidas, quiero decir, literalmente aquellas que han sacudido las bases de nuestras creencias, dijo uno de los principales investigadores. El gran reto para todos los involucrados en este proyecto es que los avistamientos son muy poco frecuentes y en un área específica que solo ellos conocen y no quieren revelar, además de un público escéptico y una comunidad científica que aún duda de su creencia.
G'day everyone, artist Wayne Dowsand here, and it's time to weigh in on the Bigfoot phenomenon. And today I am analysing a 4K stabilised and colorised version of the famous Patterson-Gimlin film, the American short motion picture of an unidentified subject which the filmmakers have said was a Bigfoot. The footage was shot in 1967 in Northern California and has since been subjected to many attempts to authenticate or debunk it. That's right, we have our own sightings here in Australia. We don't call them Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Here we call them Yowies. So let's have a look at this famous footage. And these are the things that I noticed when I looked at this creature's walk cycle. And the first thing I noticed were the hands and the arm swing. Because the creature's hands are open until it reaches its peak swing and then they close. And they only close momentarily before opening again. And it does that at the peak of each swing when its arms swing out in front of its body. And you can see that very clearly in the video footage. There the hand is closed, and then the creature opens its hands as it swings past its thighs. And all the while the wrists are rotating. They are continually rotating. And on top of that, the arms bend. In fact, the arms bend almost 90 degrees at the elbow. Also, the hands on the backward arc of the swing move in a very unhuman-like manner. When you look closely at the locomotion of this creature, it is very unique indeed. Especially for something so large. But at the same time, everything is fluid and the creature moves quite quickly. Because let's face it, it's huge. Apart from the difficulty of estimating how tall it is, you can easily see how wide the creature is, how thickly muscled it is. And when we take a close look at the way the creature moves its legs, we find that it does so in a rather strange way. The creature lifts its leg off the ground with everything almost at right angles, before swinging its leg out in front of it to take a step forward. And when the creature steps and impacts with the ground, you can see that it is heavy. The muscles move and quiver as they act like shock absorbers. When I looked at some of the frames that show the creature turning to look at the cameraman, and I compared those with apes, the similarities become abundantly clear. In every frame that I looked at, the shape of the head was practically an exact match, especially when comparing it with a female ape. The prominent brow ridge can be seen, as well as the shape of the mouth. However, there are some differences. and the major one being the nose. And although the nose isn't clear in the film footage, you can definitely see that it is more human-like than ape-like. The neck in every frame can clearly be seen to be thickly muscled, exactly like an ape's. The head is placed squarely on those thick, muscular trapezius, and as the creature turns to the camera, so too do its shoulders. Deltoids are huge. And as we take a look at this frame, you can also clearly see that the creature has breasts. It's a female, with huge arms, huge muscular thighs, very heavy and thickly set. And, just like the previous frames, the face is an exact match with an ape. With the exception, as I said earlier, in regards to the nose. So, is it a real creature, or is it just a man in a suit? That's the million-dollar question. And there's one thing that you can see in a lot of the frames that had me thinking it just doesn't look quite right. And that's this line here, this line in the creature's thigh. I just couldn't work it out. I watched it over and over and over again. And then it hit me. If you look at this as a real living animal, these are wear marks from its hands rubbing up against its thighs. This creature walks everywhere. The arms around the elbows are touching the animal's sides. That's why the fur's all worn there. Even the hair on the arms is worn, where the arms brush against the sides. Even the hair on the buttocks is worn, where you would expect it. All the telltale signs of the way this creature moves. This is not a man in a suit. This is the real deal. This is a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Which brings me to my story. I had a conversation with an elderly man back in the 80s. At the time I was in an archery club and I told him that I wanted to go out and hunt wild boar. He told me he'd been hunting all his life. He'd hunted roos, goats, pigs, deer. You want to know the strangest thing I've ever seen? I was hunting with 3 mates. We came into a clearing. It was all rock, leading to a big drop-off. He said in the middle of the clearing was what looked like an ape, crouched on the ground looking at something. They were his exact words. It stood up, looked at them, and then turned and ran for the edge of the drop-off. He said he lifted his rifle and shot it. But when they got to the edge of the drop-off, it was nowhere to be found. Years later I realised he was talking about a yowie.